It is week 16. The New York Jets are facing the New Orleans Saints, possibly our last winnable game of the year. So, let's get fired up. Hell yeah. Thank you everyone for joining me. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I'm looking forward to tonight's show. I finally got my shelf put up, got my new monitor all hooked up. So I got a nice 40-inch monitor sitting right in front of me. And therefore, I will be all over these comments tonight. At any rate, hope all y'all are doing well. Real quick before I get into it, Valerie, I just wanted to let you know your t-shirt actually did not go out with the last order. I thought we got it in time. We did not, however. So it will be getting shipped out on Tuesday, I believe, is the 22nd, is the next one going out. So that should be arriving to you. Unfortunately, it won't make it there by Christmas, but shortly thereafter, you should have it. So this week, the Jets face the Saints. Probably our last winnable game of the year. And a lot of people are probably hoping we don't win. It's hard for me to root for a loss. However, I'm okay with it. I've made peace with the fact that, we probably won't win another game this year. We have some tough matchups. Tight ends have been a problem for us, covering tight ends, whether it be, Quincy, Sherwood, whatever. Our linebackers can't cover a tight end to save their life, it seems. New Orleans has a pretty good tight end in Juwan Johnson. He doesn't put up big numbers every single week, but you never know when he's going to pop off, which is probably why I left him in my fantasy lineup last week. Meanwhile, Kyle Pitts was on my bench scoring 1 million points. That's just been kind of the story of the year this year. We get to see some old friends, as it were, in our former linebacker. Still playing for the Saints, still playing it at a reasonably high level. There are going to be some good matchups. The Saints have an unproven quarterback in Tyler Shuck, and we have an even more unproven quarterback ourselves in Brady Cook. So it'll be the matchup of the unproven quarterbacks. And I have a bad feeling that their unproven quarterback is going to outplay ours. I have a feeling he's going to shuck us up. And that's just the way it's going to go. They've got Chris Olave. The Saints have got some decent players. Their defense is not as good as it once was. However, right now, our team kind of looks like a mess. A lot has gone on this week. We extended Myers, so we don't have to worry about center for the foreseeable future. We extended Ruckert, which I think is a good thing. And I heard some people say this week that they're rewarding the guys who have bought in. And while I somewhat agree with that, I don't like to word it like that, because it almost sounds like how I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. That kind of sounds like a desperation move. Like we'll pay you if you just buy in, which that's not the way that I look at it. I look at it as they're taking care of guys that are 100% committed, that will do whatever they need to for the team. And I'm okay with that. People are always asking, what can you point to that has improved with the Jets? And earlier today, Buffalo Jets fan brought up a good point. The blocking has gotten better on the offensive side of the ball. Wide receivers and tight ends, but in particular tight ends. A year ago at this time, everybody had given up on Ruckert and wanted him gone. He dropped a lot of balls. His blocking wasn't stellar. His blocking has certainly improved. And this year, to set career highs for him, that isn't saying a lot because his career highs previous to this year were not very good. But he caught 20 of 23 balls this year. That is a pretty damn good percentage. So I'm perfectly okay with us paying Ruckert. Steve Wilkes was fired. Now, I don't know how much of a change we're going to see from that. And I'm hoping that we just didn't change coordinators, because I'll tell you what, if all they did was change the person calling the plays, but we're still running that same scheme that we've been running that just doesn't work, that antiquated, simplistic scheme, nothing's going to change. It's still going to look just as bad. Maybe they'll call, an additional blitz here and there. Maybe they'll beef it up a little bit. But if there isn't a major change in philosophy, a major schematic change, I don't think that defense is going to improve that much. So that's something I'm curious to see. It's kind of late in the year to throw the entire defensive playbook out and start from scratch. But I do hope to see some wholesale changes on that side of the ball. Pred, I'd like to welcome you to the show. It's good to have you here. Initially tonight, I was going to do a show on my top 3 Aaron Glenn players in this upcoming draft. However, as I was putting it together, it kept getting flagged. And so I couldn't show some of the highlights that I wanted to, unfortunately. And also this week, Darian Mensah, who was kind of my own personal favorite as a backup plan if we didn't get Mendoza, announced that he was going back to school. The reason I bring that up right now is because Pred, I know you're a Tulane fan, and Mensah previously was their quarterback. And one of the guys that I was going to highlight was R. Mason Thomas, pass rusher from Oklahoma. He played a game against Mensah at Tulane where he probably dominated him worse than I've ever seen one guy dominate a quarterback. There was one series where he had a sack. The next play, he jumped up, batted a ball, and had a pass defense. And then the next play, he had another sack. So it was like sack, pass defense, sack. The following series, he not only strip sacked the quarterback, but he also picked up the ball and recovered his own fumble. Really fun player to watch, a bit undersized, but real high motor, real fun guy to watch and to break down. At any rate, going into this matchup on Sunday, for the draft purposes, I'm okay with us losing. I would really like to see them go out there and take another step and, show some more progress. But at the same time, like if we can keep, inching our way up that draft board as far as position, uh, that's okay with me too. So I guess we're going to find out tomorrow. Uh, we will see what happens. Um, Nate, good to see you here. Jay Quest, Addie, Fox, thank you everyone for joining me. It's been a rough year for us, and as Jets fans, that's kind of par for the course. We've had a lot of bad years. Um, However, you never quite get used to it. I had somebody say that to me earlier this week. Well, you're a Jets fan. You should be used to it. Dude, there's no getting used to that shit. When I became a Jets fan, they were good. Like my very first year as a Jets fan, we were in an AFC championship game. And for like the whole first, over a decade, we were good. And, granted, there was a lot of years before that when we weren't as good, but I was somewhat naive to all that. I was used to the Jets being a good team. I went into every Sunday convinced that we were going to win, never a doubt in my mind. Unfortunately, ever since Rex, it's been bad. It's been bad. But I'm going to go ahead and bring somebody else on, and let's get his thoughts on the state of the team right now and what changes we can expect. Zach, man, how you doing, dude?
What's going on, Ricky? How are you, man?
Not a whole lot. Uh, I got to address something with you while I have you here.
Oh, I don't wear dresses.
Okay, and yeah, yeah, there we go. Message unable to send. Message blocking is active. That's what I get every time I try to text you. I'm not.
What?
Yeah, weird. And I tried to call you, and as soon as I would dial your number, it would be like click and immediately hang up. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I don't know. Anyways, we'll get that worked out behind the scenes. But
Okay. Yeah, I'm
uh,
calling you after the show so you know.
okay,
That
that's all
that's
good, dude.
extremely messed up. I don't get that. I don't know what the hell's going on with my phone. That's do you just have like a regular service like AT&T, or is it like Google or what?
Yeah, no, it's I got Metro, but I mean it's
Metro.
just a regular service. Like it ain't nothing fancy.
I've never heard of that in my life. That's terrible. I'm sorry. Um all right, yeah, we'll square it up after the show though. Let's not, infringe on everyone else's, precious time.
That's all good.
Obviously I want to come on here and first and foremost I want to say everybody like and subscribe to the show. Hit take what is it Pops likes to say, take that like button at Pound Town,
Yeah,
baby. Yeah, so make sure y'all are contributing to Ricky's success cuz obviously he's one of us. We want to see him succeed. As far as the points that you've brought up so far, with the signings, let's say, Myers, I think this speaks to a few different things. You said that obviously it's the guys that are buying into AG's program. Also, yeah, don't be leaving me hanging, guy. Salute.
absolutely. Time to smoke and debate.
That's right. So, So yeah, obviously, Myers is one of those guys that he brought in, and we heard about the competition all preseason through training camp with Myers and Tip, and obviously Tip came out on top, but then AVT goes down, shocker, and he kicks out to guard, and wouldn't you know it, it's kind of a godsend. Problem with that though is Myers is basically a bottom quartile starting center. It's really not a sexy look with him out there. He gets punished often, and it's like he's a good locker room guy. You see him at the podium. He speaks highly of the coaching staff and his teammates, and you love that. But clearly, there's room for improvement or to upgrade. So it's hard to say what their approach is going to be. I would say with this extension, this is essentially taking them out of the Tyler Linderbaum sweepstakes, unfortunately, because there's only going to be so much that they can throw around money wise. They have guys that they're going to need to pay in the relatively near future. So, um, depending on what they do in free agency, I think also is going to speak largely to what they're going to do in the draft. As of right now, I'm not holding my breath for them to draft a rookie center either, because you have Tip, who's proven he can start at a high level at the center position, and now you have that solidified depth with him and Myers. So if anything, I'm thinking they might take a couple, young guys later on in the draft, where we'll see, maybe like a swing tackle get drafted, because God knows that we haven't heard a damn thing about what Chukwuma Okorafor since he joined the team.
Right.
Um,
Well, that's
and
good. That's
well,
good that we haven't seen our backup tackles.
correct. But I mean, I know the whole thing with that guy was that he, put up. He basically had a conniption when the Pats asked him, um, to play left tackle, and it's like he's like, oh, I'm a right tackle. So, it's great to have sure depth, but at the same time, I feel like this would also give him a chance to move on from a guy like that. So, I think ultimately what we're going to see is AVT is going to walk in free agency, probably go out west, back to where he's comfortable, either with the Chargers, who constantly have offensive line issues, and or the San Francisco. So, I think Simpson, he's openly stated he likes it, with the Jets. I think his wife loves the area too, and their kids enjoy it. So I think that interior of the line is basically, cemented, and then you're really just going to get some depth flyer guys from there. So you'll see a bit more of what they like in some younger offensive linemen, probably in the mid to late rounds. As far as Rucker, I mean, he's about as mid as it gets, and that's not a bad thing. It's simply a feel good story with him getting his extension. He kind of, he's a local boy. He, he goes from local boy to local hero. He gives people belief, like, oh, he's one of us. He made it. It could be any of us, kind of thing. Feel good story. But 5 mil a year is a bit of a stretch. I mean, you probably could have threw that kid 2.5, 3 mil. He'd still be, nice and happy. But now you're just, hanging him up with the fat cats, so to speak. So, either way, I don't think 2 mil is going to break the bank. It's not like they're, so close to a Super Bowl that it's going to like dig in. Those that little minutia is going to make that much of a difference. By throwing him a couple more bucks. So, is what it is. As far as Wilkes, I'm really on the fence as far as how they handled this, because as bad as that defense has been this year, it's almost like you couldn't just wait one more game, one more, because I mean, I want to say he had something like over a 70% threshold, maybe even over 80%. I got to double check it. But as far as the number of games that they've allowed 27 or more points to be scored against them, it's pretty abysmal. And not
It's
having,
bad. Yeah.
yeah, and zero interceptions. I mean, I would have almost liked to see him finish out the season just so that he could have that record, like be the only defensive
He
coordinator to
deserves it.
ever. I mean, no doubt. I mean, that's like. I mean, I would rather have a lit cigarette put out on my face than have to, operate a defense under that guy. I mean, he is pathetic. It is no wonder that he is a one and done damn near everywhere he goes. So,
Everywhere he goes.
but the problem then I have with it is, like, you couldn't wait for this dummy to get you through the last possible winnable game that you're going to have this season. And no, I'm not saying they're going to win. If anything, I would take the Saints to actually win in the Superdome in Louisiana. But it's like, if you wanted a sure thing, that's about as sure as it gets at that point, right? So, I mean, I think Shug and company are actually going to handle business. I like how he has been playing, especially as of late. I mean, they just beat a potential playoff team here with Carolina, and I know I am not a huge Carolina fan, but still, they're doing the thing this year. So, any given Sunday, um, I think that the Jets are just basically Swiss cheese at this point, man. I mean, they have so many just backup level players on this team at this point. It's just like, who's it? Jordan Clark is their starting corner or their nickel at this point. Yeah,
God, yeah, I
y-
think so.
y-
That's been the rough part is the injuries have hit us too at the end.
mhm.
As far as Wilkes and why they didn't wait, from my understanding, there were guys on the sideline just like verbally speaking out and like they were ready to have a full on mutiny. And so rather than let the locker room implode, I think that Glenn had to make that switch when he did. But like I said, if all you're changing is the guy calling the plays, this defense isn't going to get any better. And I don't know if they're going to do a whole, schematic overhaul at this point of the year. So I hope that we see, some wholesale changes on that side of the ball, but I'm very skeptical. So I'm kind of in wait and see mode with that. Um, as far as what you were saying about us not drafting a center because of the Myers extension, um, I think what they're doing is just like they could they could still potentially add somebody later on. I think that does eliminate them using an early pick on a center, but they could still add somebody later. But I think they're just saying, okay, like that's one hole that we don't have to worry about, as strictly. Like that gives them a little bit more flexibility. And I've been doing mocks for like a while now, and all my mocks were almost all the same. It was like, quarterback early if there's one there, Sonny Styles, Dylan Thieneman, pass rusher, whether it's R. Mason Thomas, Romello Height, insert name depending on who's there. But I really started thinking about it. And, Nick Shine was saying this the other night on his show. If it was him, he would build from the trenches out. And I started thinking about it. And I was like, man, if we really do, get our future quarterback in this draft, the best thing is to put things around him that are going to make it easier for him. So solidify that line, improve the receiver position. So um, I'm wondering if we don't get AVT's replacement early because, dude, I'm so ready for him to walk because I like him. He's a nice kid. He's a good locker room guy. For all intents and purposes, he's a good guy. But dude, he's just always hurt. And at this point, like the odds of him making it through a whole season are rather slim. So, like, I'm ready to move on. And, whether it be like Pregnon from Oregon or Ole Vivenga Ione from Penn State, or there's a few good guards that they could have early if they decide to take one. And there's actually quite a few centers, whether it be Jake Slaughter, Parker Brailsford, Iapani Lalolu, also from Oregon, which I wouldn't mind that, getting two Oregon guys and keep them together. Same thing with Parker Brailsford. You could always get guard Jalen Roberts later and keep those two guys together. There's also Luke Pettibon, Florida State, who will be available later. But, dude, went 10 games this year without giving up a single pressure. He's good and a mauler in the run game. Earlier this week, somebody said they wouldn't trust me when it came to Florida State prospects, but I'll say it right now. There's two guys on that entire team that I would even consider drafting, and that would be the center, and the other one's Deuce Robinson, the wide receiver. 6'6", 225, and moves extremely well for a guy that size. Bolitnikov finalist, had over 1,000 yards this year on a crap 3-win team. So uh, there's that. But again, naturally, free agency is going to tell us a lot about what they're going to do. But we definitely have a lot of holes to fill, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I want to completely make over this linebacker room, like whether it's Sonny Styles, C.J. Allen, Hill, one of those top three guys we have to get with one of those first picks. And I honestly wouldn't mind double dipping. I wouldn't mind if they did that, and then we get that 105 pick and take like Jacob Rodriguez from Texas. Like I wouldn't mind seeing two new linebackers because they paid Sherwood. I don't know if they'll go that route. God, it would be so nice if on draft day, like all of a sudden out of the blue in like the third round, they were like, so and so has traded with the Jets. The New York Jets are now on the clock, and we find out that Sherwood got shipped off to San Francisco or something. I don't even give a shit where they send him. I just want him to leave.
No, I completely agree. Honestly, man, you made a lot of great points there. Really, hats off to you. Because I mean, honestly, the shit that I listen to, that people word vomit on a daily basis. I'm just like, you live with your head in the ground. Like I have no fucking clue what you're watching, but it isn't reality. Speaking to your Florida State prospects, I fucking know that you bang that drum harder than anybody, you know, alive. But I will completely agree with the fact that I think this year, Deuce Robinson, he reminds me, what was the guy from the Giants? Um, God, Plaxico Burris. That's who he reminds me of, dude. I think he is a very fluid mover for being that big of a man. I think that, on like comebacks and just, very sudden, like twitch movement type routes, like he's just not that guy. But I mean, he can really win above the rim. He isn't going to take the top off of defense, but he is that, T. Higgins, sort of like short to intermediate type, guy, but he's a bit more fluid rather than upright. So I'll definitely give you props, for shouting him out. And then Pettibon, I like him a lot too. I think he could be a real mid-round find. Whether or not they want to roll with him is the big question. I think size with the center position is going to come into factor, and I do think Pettibon can be center guard versatile. I think when you were speaking that as well, it's also a very valid point where just because they don't take a guy early, isn't going to preclude them from taking a multi-positioned asset later on. So guard center flexibility or guard tackle flexibility or just a straight up swing tackle, possible developmental guy. So I mean, I love coming on the show, man, just because you're with it very much so. But I think really more to your points that their early picks are going to dictate exactly obviously what's going to happen later on in the draft, and then UDFA signings and how they're filling out their depth chart with their guys, their brand of people. I just don't want to see him overpay to move up, man. And in it's like any other year, I wouldn't care. This year, I care way too much because of the fact that there's clear ceilings with each of these prospects, and there's a lot to like in a lot in several of them. But none of these guys is going to be the guy who has the Herculean effort where he's just fucking putting the team on his back in a given game where everything's on the line, and getting them over the finish line. Um, you know, right now, depending on what happens and the odds of what it looks like is going to happen, they have the same strength of schedule right now as the Giants, and the Giants right now are projected to have the first overall pick. However, they're also going to be playing Vegas, and Vegas is absolute dog shit. So I suspect the Giants are going to come out on top with that one. Hang on one second. My wife is calling me. She was just making cookies with her girl.
That's
Uh,
okay. I'm going to answer Valerie's question. Uh, who the F is Jordan Clark? And Jay Graves says that's Ryan Clark's son, which is true. Uh, however, the correct answer would be just some bum. Who's Jordan Clark? He's just some bum.
Jag.
Yeah. Uh, man, he was bad too. He was bad in the amount of time that he played last week. That was awful, hard to watch.
Well, they also
Uh,
got Ryan Clark's kid out there too, Dean Clark. He's playing
oh,
for.
that's wait. No, okay, yeah, correction. Dean Clark is Ryan Clark's son. Jordan Clark. That's the. I always get those two mixed up for whatever reason. Um,
Either way, um, So what I was saying about the ceilings with these quarterbacks, it's like, you see a clear, divider with Mendoza. Okay. I love Fernando Mendoza. He is such a feel good story. He's a kid that you could really root for, clean cut. Would love if that was the kid that your daughter brought home and said to you, "Hey, I'm fucking this guy." I'd be really okay with that guy coming and banging my daughter because he's a class act. He's clean cut. He's a fucking disciplined person. He's God fearing. His mom's got MS. The guy's a saint. All right, and I'm always finding myself rooting for this kid. But the problem is that he there's nothing that other than his processing that's particularly spectacular. So for me, it's like my um, deduction of what he's ultimately going to become, and and that's a big thing for me too with the Jets is quarterback development because I think that they clearly have a tendency to stymie guys' ceiling. And obviously this is a whole new regime and everyone's going to bitch about that, but it's something about the franchise again that's usually a top-down issue as far as being able to do certain things successfully, which in football you need the quarterback first and foremost, and if you don't got that you got nothing. So my thing with him is that his ceiling is already pretty limited, and it's like, is this regime going to get the most out of that guy, and are they even going to be around long enough to really, how should I say, uh, 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 garner, having allotted them the option to select a quarterback, a would-be franchise guy, whom I don't think anyone coming out of this class is probably going to be a franchise guy. I think the closest thing that you're going to get is in Dante Moore, and I think at that point he is even a fringe franchise guy. I mean, everyone coming out this year is going to have work that they're going to need to do, significant amount of work. But I mean, you look at, for me, I think Moore is the number one guy. I think he's going to fall anywhere between like a Sam Darnold and Jordan Love type. Um,
right,
with with Mendoza, I think he is, if Kirk Cousins could actually run the ball, he would be that. But really, the closer projection because of that would be Daniel Jones. So
right,
you know, so somewhere between a Daniel Jones and a Kirk Cousins type, it's like you probably aren't going to win a Super Bowl with that guy. If you look at the last 20 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, okay, you're going to see the names of Brady and Manning and Roethlisberger and Wilson and Flacco and Rodgers and Mahomes and Stafford. And then you're going to see like two guys who are like basically nobodies that won one because Philly is an elite
yeah.
franchise
Jalen Hurts and who's the other one?
and Nick Foles.
Yeah,
So it's like, I mean, and Hurts knows generally where to go with the ball. It's simply that he doesn't have the arm to get it there. So because of the elite roster building around him, because God knows that Howie Roseman is like a deity, just wearing human skin, fucking running the league with the crazy shit that he pulls off. Um, and has orchestrated two Super Bowls in the last decade, which I mean the Jets would, I mean, probably go blow a donkey, for in a peep show to have that kind of record. So I just feel that you really need the guy if you're going to go the distance, unless you have the ability to be an elite roster builder, which the Jets don't. So, um, I mean, to me, it's like I would much rather see this team, build this roster up with elite talent, team guys, and really make people believe that this could turn into something. And in order to have a young man come in and win early and often with a solid nucleus around him on a rookie contract that you don't have to pay him out the ears. So it just makes way too much sense, to punt a year, but damn well it's not going to happen because AG and company are going to be on a timeline, and people were already hooting and hollering, to friggin' have his ass this year. You think it's not going to be tough next year, dude? They're going to have maybe five
Oh
or six
yeah,
wins at the
it's
most.
definitely. And let me weigh in right there real quick because, like, I think that Mendoza could be an average quarterback. Like, I don't ever think he's going to be like a top five guy, anything like that. Um, that being said, I think we could have a decent amount of success with a guy like that, provided the right pieces are around him. And damn, man, you said a lot there. Wow, you went from like blowing a donkey to like being okay with some guy banging your daughter, and like, man, wow, there was a lot there. Um, me, dude, even though my daughter's like 31 now, I'm still not okay with anybody. Well, you know what? I take that back. She had a boyfriend that she was with for a long time, and I actually thought he was going to be our son-in-law at one point. And after like almost 10 years, they ended up splitting up.
Mm.
Since then, I'm not going to go into that whole thing, but that you know what that this is totally non-football. But as you were saying that, it reminded me of something like aside from football and music, I'm also kind of a firearm enthusiast, I guess you could say. And it was like right after my birthday, and I had a brand new rifle I'd just gotten, and all of a sudden my daughter comes out, and it's like 2 in the morning or something, and like normal, I was sitting at the computer, and my daughter comes out, and she looks at me and my wife, and she's like, "These boys just came up and like knocked on my window, and they want me to let them in." And I'm like, "Really?" And I was like, "Listen, go back in there and just tell them to go around to the front door. Don't say anything else. Just tell them come around to the front door and I'll let you in." And shut the curtain. And so she did. And so I'm waiting at the door, and I can hear the footsteps coming up, and they tap on the door real light, and I like yank the door open, and I was like, "Come on in, boys, have a seat." And I got my rifle sitting right there. And I was like, what in the fuck do you think makes it okay for you to come and knock on my daughter's window in the middle of the night? And dude, they were both shitting their pants.
Oh yeah.
I saw their eyes keep wandering over to the rifle. And, I was like, listen, if you're going to come to my house, you're going to come correct. You're not going to be knocking on windows. You're going to come up and knock on the door. And I got my message across to them, and I ended up putting them in the car and giving them a ride back to where they came from.
Mm.
But yeah, so I'm fairly protective over my kids. So like, I don't know.
So it sounds like it really struck a tune with you when I said, a potential guy that would be banging your daughter, you know?
Kind of like, which I don't know. Uh,
I think it's safe to say that none of us wants anybody to bang our daughters. I think that's like the
yeah,
safest thing we could
exactly.
possibly do.
Yeah,
With that
that's
being
kind
said, I
of
mean, w- we're all creatures that are designed to procreate.
yeah. But at any rate, um, let's get back to football. It looks like I haven't been keeping an eye on the game. Somebody says
Yeah.
that Oregon's feasting. Uh, I'm TiVoing it right now. So when the show's over, I'll go back and sit down and watch that whole thing. And you know what? This is something I was thinking too, though. Like when you're talking about Ty Simpson, he's got Jeremy Bernard. You talk about Mendoza, he's got Cooper and Elijah Surratt.
Surratt.
Um, you know, go down the list, but uh, Moore, he doesn't really have that superstar receiver. I mean, he's got Kenyon Sadiq, who's a very good tight end, but he's doing what he's doing without the big name superstar receiver, which to me makes that a little bit more impressive. Which is one of the reasons I like Darian Mensah. Was kind of the same thing with him, and dude, I said all along, give me a guy with the M name. If we can't get Mendoza, I'll take Mensa. But you know what? Now Mensa's going back to school. Mayava's going back to school. Uh, so if I want an M name quarterback, it's going to be Moore or Mendoza. Like we're down to those two. So, but all being said and done, I got a funny feeling that our picks are going to end up being like 3-13. Which kind of sounds like our record, but yeah, I know. uh, I think one of those guys will be there for us. Like, um,
I don't.
God,
I don't disagree with that, and here's why. So I've been following a lot of people who've got their ear on the ground, their a pulse on this whole situation for what this offseason is going to look like quarterback wise, and more, it's sounding quite a bit like one of these guys has a legitimate opportunity to fall to the Jets, you know, regardless of where they end up picking in the top five. And so what I'm hearing out of Cleveland is that they want to roll with Deshaun Watson and Shadur Sanders in a quarterback competition, and may the best man win because either of them are going to put asses in the seats, right? And then
right.
I'm hearing that um, Shug has made such an impression on the Saints that
So
they don't feel compelled to necessarily have to try and move on from the young man at this point and give him a full season after having started him for about half a season and see what he can do with a full season under his belt. And then I'm hearing that Vegas
that
is
would be the one I'm worried
talking
about.
about. Oh, did I lose you? Am I here?
No, no, you
Can you hear
got
me now?
choppy for yeah, you got choppy for just a second, but you came right back. Vegas is the one I'm worried about.
Let me try and get on here.
You're there.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys see me?
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I could hear you now, dude. So yeah, no. So and then Vegas is the other one that I've been hearing about where they're talking about trading or acquiring somehow either Tua or Kyler. So,
Oh,
and
good.
again, any of those moves don't preclude them from necessarily taking a quarterback, but it would give them a diversified opportunity where if they didn't want to take a young man in the first round or possibly with a second pick, then, you know, the Jets could easily have one of these guys fall to them. So the big thing then really becomes is with Mensa already having uh, declared of going back to school, is Moore going to do the same thing, right? Because I mean, he's going to lose Sadiq this year. Sadiq is just going to be, a first round tight end, and um, they have enough pieces there where I think he could still operate. I don't think after this year though that they're going to have as good of an ensemble uh, that would be surrounding him because of this draft class. Like you said, you already mentioned Emmanuel Prenyon, who is all but locked as a first round guard.
Oh yeah.
Uh, you got Isaiah World, who's probably going to be a second round tackle this year. And then you got Alex Harkey, who's guard tackle versatile. And
Yep.
all three of those guys on his offensive line are coming out this year. So I mean, it's like, do you want? Oh, and then Yapani Lululu, the
Yep.
center.
The
So
center
that's
too.
four guys on your starting line. That's not going to be there next year. Do you really want to return behind that after already losing your offensive coordinator and
Your
losing
best
your
weapon.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. So I mean,
and then Mekhi Hughes is going to come out too. That's a lot of pieces to lose.
yeah, and I mean, there's always a chance that they could reload it, through the portal because, like Luke Pettibon we talked about earlier, he came from Wake Forest. He was a portal guy, and I mean, after the horrible season we had, like they reloaded, they brought in four brand new offensive linemen, all from the portal, and kind of reloaded that. Unfortunately, they had a lot more holes than that to fill, and they didn't. But and even Deuce Robinson was a portal guy because he came from USC. But yeah, that's a lot. And the other thing is, with next year's quarterback class being so loaded, like, do you want to be the number one possibly or number two guy, or do you want to be like the eighth quarterback off the board? Like, I mean, we're talking a substantial difference in money, big
Yeah.
time, big
Well,
time.
I think it's
And
the top pick gets like $40 million for their first 5 year contract, right?
yep, so something like that. Yeah, and so that's why, like, when I balk when people go, "Oh, but the NIL money," and it's like, dude, you know what? He's going to end up making like 25 to $30 million more on his first NFL contract than what NIL would pay him. And you know what? My wife always says it. It all comes down to money. Everything always comes down to money. And uh, once upon a time, when I owned my shop here in town, initially I had a business partner, and one time he told me, like, I hate it when people say this too. Like when a couple says, like, "Oh yeah, we never fight." Like bullshit. Like the people that say we never fight are usually the people that fight the worst behind the scenes.
Or are completely psychotic.
Yeah. But Jay was like, you know what? Anytime me and my wife fight, like we can be fighting over who's going to do the dishes, what we're having for dinner, what we're going to watch on TV. But if you peel back the layers and really look underneath it, there's always some kind of money issue. Like it always like comes back to that. And a lot of times that's true. Um, which me and my wife don't really fight. We have some healthy debates, but at the end of the day, like everything with us is like, a compromise. Like, even if we both have very strong opinions, we just kind of talk it out and kind of find a middle ground. And it's always about like teamwork because that's the way it should be. Like, if you got a girlfriend, like, it's right there in the name, like girlfriend. Like, So my wife was like my best friend, and there's nothing I couldn't talk to her about. There's nothing we couldn't get through together, and yeah, it's all about that communication. Anyways, um, once again, I'm kind of getting sidetracked. Get myself back on track and back to football.
Rickie's getting the feels about him.
Yeah, definitely a little bit. Um,
Here's to that,
Hey,
brother.
you know what? I feel like I'm in a very lucky situation as far as that goes. Which I'm glad that something in my life is going right. At least I got that to hang my hat on when everything else seems to be collapsing. The Jets are doing me no favors. Neither of my football teams are, for that matter. But at least with the Jets, there's a glimmer of hope. Dude, like I was saying, Rucker has improved this year. Kiko improved this year. Stevens went from like god awful to being at least somewhat adequate. For a while there, he was playing really good. It seems like he's kind of taken a little bit of a step back in the last couple of weeks, but um, dude, losing Az Thomas really hurts. Losing Brownlee hurts. Garrett, and dude, the last couple of years, there's been so many times where Garrett took like a nasty hit and got up limping, and I would think to myself, "Oh my God, no, please!" That's the one guy that we got that's really good, and we dodged a bunch of bullets in that regard, and finally our luck ran out with that. Um, I do like the fact that they were smart enough to see that this season is a loss, and there's no sense in putting him back out there and risking him re-injuring himself. To probably not even win any more games anyway. So I'm really glad they were smart enough to shut him down for the year. But dude, there's been a lot of things that there's I wouldn't say a lot, but there have definitely been some things that have improved. The penalties are way down. Guys are being held accountable for a change. And so, I mean, I think there are some encouraging signs. Now, there's still a lot of work to be done. But when you listen to Glenn talk, he always says that, we got to go back to work. There's things that need to be fixed. And the other thing I like is, and part of it, I think he means what he's saying, but I know that part of it is kind of, he's shielding the players. Like he's going to stand up there and take all the shots and put it on himself. But he'll say, like, I got to look at myself first because it starts with me, and that's true. And but I kind of like I do like the direction now, and I'm hopeful as far as getting a quarterback and developing him. Like, dude, I do agree with the sentiment that we have to have somebody to help develop this young quarterback. Like we can't have like the running back coach guy, be our quarterback coach to develop a young kid. But dude, our offensive line has been really good, and that was a question at the beginning of this year. Oh, well, we got a tight ends coach who's going to coach our O line. How's that going to turn out? Well, it actually turned out okay. Now, when it comes to quarterback, I'm not willing to take that gamble. I think they need to bring in somebody proven that can help develop this young quarterback, and I think they will. Hopefully, it doesn't take like a bad turn of events for that to happen. Like, hopefully, they don't start out with the wrong guy and let it snowball. Like, everybody says he should have pulled Fields a lot earlier. Well, he wanted to, but Tyrod wasn't healthy for the Cincinnati game, or else he would have pulled Fields. And then Fields ended up winning a couple of games for us. Not really, but we won kind of in spite of him. But we won a couple of games. But that being said, like, if I have a complaint about Glenn, like that would probably be it. Like he stuck with Fields too long. He stuck with Wilkes too long. I like the fact that, he's loyal to his players and his coaches, but damn, dude, like if something's just clearly not working, like if you notice the house is on fire, like put it out when it's still just a fire on the stove. Don't wait for it to spread to the next room before you start throwing water at it. So we'll see. Again, I'm hopeful. I do believe in this coaching staff. I totally think we got the right guy for the job, but we got a lot of holes to fill, and you know it'll be interesting. And like I said, whereas before when I was doing mocks, I was loading up on a lot of defensive guys other than the quarterback. But now, the more that I think about it, maybe getting that AVT replacement, whether it be Ione or Pregnon or whoever, solidifying that line and getting us another good receiver and make it as easy on that quarterback as we possibly can. And then even if the defense, you know, isn't totally revamped this year, dude, we got all those picks next year that we can address that. So I'm kind of starting to slowly like lean the other way. Like even though there's a lot of defensive players that I really do like in this class, at the same time, like I think we need to do as much as we can to make it easy for whatever young quarterback we plug in here. Okay, so sorry about that. I was trying to catch myself back up on the. Uh-oh. Where did that comment go? Oh, there was just a comment that I wanted to highlight, and now I cannot find it. Goodness. Wow. Okay. I don't know why, but for some reason my comments thing on my StreamYard stopped scrolling for a minute, and man, was I behind. Man, was I behind.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Dude, it's so funny. I just had myself muted. I was talking as if you could hear me. It's so funny.
That's that's all good.
So okay, so yeah, so let me bounce off a couple points that you made. So I think yeah, you were absolutely correct. It was the absolute right move to not bring GW back. Clearly the kid was playing through a lot, and he's got nobody that he can trust to really get him the ball safely. There's a lot of hospital balls thrown on this team. So rather than have him dwell around with that negative psyche of what this season has become, he's got nothing to work towards. It's not like he's going to realistically hit 1,000 yards again. So there's no records he's going to set or anything. So obviously, yeah, for long-term preservation, that was the right move. What was this point? Yeah, with AG, I like you said, I get that he's going to defend his guys. The problem that I have with that is how many times you could say, it all starts with me before you start to sound like Robert Saleh again. I got to look at the tape.
Right.
I gotta look at the tape. It all starts with me. We know that, and it's a top-down problem, and that's why it's been a problem because the top sucks consistently. So, obviously, again, it's the first year. I don't think many of us were expecting much at all, except for like the delusionals. I know Jake initially on his show came out and said he was going to say about 4 wins. I said at most it'd be 5 or 6. Um, so yeah, I mean, we all had that general vibe. Did they play down to what we thought they might be? Yeah, I think they did. Which does not speak well to uh, 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 what this season I guess could or couldn't have been. Obviously, it had a limited ceiling as it was, but when you see a team play down below expectations, even at that point, it's kind of even more disappointing because it's like, really, you're that bad? Geez. So really just speaks to the hole that they have to climb out of, and it's a whole lot of wait and see coming up. As far as making mention to who they would bring in as far as someone to develop a young QB, did you have any people in mind at this time?
You know what? I'm just gonna say no. Like I did have an idea, but I would be a total Florida State homer, which I am. But yeah, I would be. But no, Tony Tokars, who was our QB coach there, got let go and replaced, which I think was a terrible move. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing them, bring him in. But we need somebody with some NFL experience. So like right now, I don't have a name that's available that I could point to. Um, not one that's realistic anyway. Um, real quick, I was going to try to highlight this comment. I couldn't find it. Addison put up a comment a few minutes ago, and I'm wondering where that came from. Was Dylan Tearman showing off his new shirt? Did Jake finally get his shirt? But I sent out. I had some new T-shirts that for the show. That's got the show logo on the front, but then on the back of it, because we are the Jets, and we start talking mock drafts in October and November every year. It seems like uh, the back of the shirts say "Rock out with your mock out." I got you right when you were drinking too. Uh, at any rate, I saw Addison type that, and I'm like, "Damn, how did he get that?" So I wasn't sure if one of the two of them got their shirt and was showing it off earlier, uh, but when I tried to scroll back up, for some reason I couldn't find it. But uh, at any rate, like yeah, I've sent out a few of those already. I'm actually going to probably send some to Connor Rogers and Trevor too. I think they'll get a kick out of those.
Nice. Yeah, I saw what's it called? Foxy had put it in the chat earlier that with 4 minutes and 22 seconds left in the first half, Moore was having quite the game. 10 of 11 passing for 199 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, that's a solid start to the college football playoff. I'd say, albeit it's JMU, which why either JMU or Tulane got in over Notre Dame is laughable to me at a minimum. I think they're trying to get these simp programs a little too much attention. I think give them a bowl game, give them a live broadcast appearance, and that should put enough money in that particular conferences and colleges pockets that they don't need to be in these games like this. This is just embarrassing to watch. A couple other things I wanted to run by you, before we tie it up for the night. Um, One thing that when you made mention of possible people coming in who could help develop a young quarterback, it made me think of this upcoming coaching cycle. There's going to be a lot of coaches obviously fired on, what is it, Black Monday they call it. Um, and there's going to be a lot of big names out there this year. I'm hearing Belichick is already talking to 2 teams, one of which I know definitively is the Giants, and the other one is rumored to be Pittsburgh because Tomlin might be on the outs. What the whether or not that happens, we'll see. I don't know if Tomlin would even take another job after Pittsburgh, because that usually seems like where you go to die as a head coach. It's like
Right.
it's like you live in Valhalla and then you actually die. So, um, I know McCarthy's going to be out there. I heard right now he's like the front runner for the Tennessee job. Stefanski, I'm hearing, is probably going to be on the outs over there. So lot of big names. Harbaugh, who knows? What that ends up looking like. We'll see. But it's like you hear major players like that, and it's like, do you really believe that Aaron Glenn, a first-time head coach, defensive coordinator, former scout? I actually think his scouting is better than his head coaching, but I digress. With those types of names out there, it's like, how do you justify hanging on to this guy with as abysmal of a season, below even what expectations were, and they were pretty minimal. Um, in substitute of one of these other names.
Yeah, like Stefanski would be an interesting name. Um, I would tend to think that he would be like looking for possibly another head coaching job. Um, typically guys, want to work their way up, not back down. Um, but it'd be curious to see. Like me, I haven't put a ton of thought into that because I mean, dude, it's fun to sit around and speculate and talk about, but at the end of the day, they're going to do what they're going to do, and we're going to have to sit here and take it, whether we like it or not. That being said, uh, I would like to look at like, you know, maybe an unknown name, somebody that people aren't thinking about, like who's the Rams passing game coordinator, who's like somebody like that that's maybe not on the radar right now that we could get that where we could give them a position where it's not going to be a lateral move that the other team could block, but if it's a promotion of any sort, they can't block it. So, um, like I said, I haven't given it a ton of thought yet, but I'll probably sit down, as the season wraps up and really kind of start looking at names. And dude, I want to look at some of the more innovative, creative offenses around the league, and you know pick a few names out of that hat. That's the way I'm kind of looking at it right now.
Gotcha. Last question for you is, I know we've seen an extensive amount of Mendoza, this year. And I know that you're one that looks at like their interviews and things of that nature too. How do you think this kid's personality fits in with the New York area? Because I mean, the media is a machine there, right? It is vicious. It has little mercy. Their beat writers are dogs. Okay,
They
so
are.
it's like with this young man, it's like he's so excited about life. It's almost like, he's like a young man who just laid down with a girl for the first time, right? It's like he's giddy about, and he talks like he's Italian, but he's Cuban. So it's like everything he's saying like this, it's like bada bing. And I think there's enough of a Cuban population in the area that he would fit in. That'd be fine. But it's almost like he's got such that personality that's like almost obtuse to the New York area. So it's like, is that enough of a deterrent to not want to take that guy?
No, not at all. Not at all. I kind of look at that like he's probably more outspoken, and maybe his personality is like a little bit more bubbly. Um, but he's so level-headed. Like I kind of look at him the same way that I did like Chad Pennington. Chad Pennington was like a country boy. He was just a good old boy, and but I love Chad. And similar, I think he was a student of the game. Would talk about like going to the Tennessee games and watching Peyton Manning, and dude, that really showed up in certain areas. Like, Chad Pennington, of course, didn't have the strongest arm even prior to the injury. But dude, when you watched him, he had one of the nicest play actions of anybody besides Manning. Like that shit was stellar. It was really good. And not for nothing, but I mean Parcells, who coached a lot of guys, around different teams in the league, said that Pennington was the most intelligent player he ever coached. Period. And that says quite a bit. Now, I don't know if the cerebral part of Mendoza's game is quite on that same level, but I think he'll be fine. I think that he's like so even keel. Like I think he would be okay. But I completely agree with you about the media, which is funny because, dude, like Jets fans, I think all of like 99% of them have hated Samini for as long as I've been watching the Jets. Uh, Costello, a meathead. Anybody with the name The Athletic next to their name sucks. Diana Rossini. Yes. Yes. throws this team under the bus every single chance she gets. I'm not crazy about Rosenblatt and Connor Hughes. Like, dude, like their job has become like taking cheap shots at this team, and it's just lazy journalism. And I'll be so happy if we can finally turn the corner where they can't get away with that bullshit anymore, and they actually have to do their job the correct way. But like I remember, like Connor Hughes, like talking to Elijah Moore, asking him like why you're not getting the ball, and like at first Moore was just like, oh, I don't know, and if it would have dropped there, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But he like reworded that question and asked it about 4 or 5 times until finally he got him frustrated, and he was like, I don't know, man, they don't throw me the ball. And of course, when the clip got played over and over again, it just looked like he asked the question once and that was the answer. They didn't play the full clip where you could hear him ask the same thing over and over again. And dude, Aaron Glenn is not oblivious to this. Like, even when he was in Detroit, when he was in New Orleans, that dude's a Jet at heart. He's been following what's been going on here all this time. And I think that's why he took the approach that he did with the media. Like, I know what you motherfuckers do, and we're not having that. And I think that's why we got some of the answers we've gotten from him, where they'll say something and he'll say, like, you can ask me as many times as you want to. You're going to get the same answer. Like he's letting them know that shit ain't flying. And it's so funny. Like I said, like for as long as I've been watching the Jets, like the Jets fans have all hated the Jets beat writers and the media. Now all of a sudden we've got a coach that stands up to the media and won't put up with their bullshit. And all of a sudden, like fans are on the media side. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, do you not remember what douchebags these people have been for the last decade? And granted, Glenn has probably been a little bit overly aggressive at times with his pressers. But, dude, like at the end of the day, I'm like, what are we talking about here? Like, honestly, I could give 2 fucks what that guy says when he steps up to the podium. I care what he does on Sundays on the field. Like, does he have this team ready to play? Are we winning games? Even if we're not winning games, are we at least competitive? Like, that's what I care about. Like what he says when he steps up to the mic is like the smallest percentile of what matters to me. Like I really don't give a shit about that. Like that whole thing, I think, has been overblown. And but at the end of the day, you got to win games. Winning cures all. Like, uh, if you don't want the media talking shit, don't give them anything to talk shit about. Let's clean up the mess, and all that'll go away. So,
And when you do that, all you can say is we're on to Cincinnati, and people just leave you the hell alone.
exactly. So, anyways, dude, it's been good chatting with you, and I'm probably gonna end up wrapping this thing up, and I'm gonna go back and start that game over from the beginning and sit down and watch it. And I kind of fooled myself. I got both laptops here, and got my new monitor all hooked up, and I got it hooked up to the opposite laptop as what I thought I did. So like when I'm like going to scroll and highlight comments, I keep reaching for the wrong laptop. Like even though I can see the comments like nice and big now, which is awesome. Like, oh my God, like I wish I had done this a long time ago. But yeah, so needless to say, I'll get that cleaned up before the next show.
Nice.
Which God, what is today? Okay, today's Saturday. Okay, like normally I would have a Thursday night show at 8 p.m. This Thursday obviously is Christmas, so there will not be an 8 p.m. show. However, there will be a 10 p.m. hangout after family time show. No, Jay, it's not going to be a 24-hour stream. I'll make you a deal. If the Jets beat the Bills the last game of the year, I'll do a 24-hour stream. I feel like I'm pretty safe on that one.
Thanks for the shout out, Chris.
But yeah, man. At any rate, there will be a hangout show at 10 p.m. on Christmas night. So when all the family time is done and the presents are opened and the meals are eaten and all that, you want to get together with some of your fellow Jets fans and hang out and just shoot the shit. There will be a non-Jets talk hangout at 10 p.m. Thursday. Other than that, we'll be back next Saturday at 8 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. You guys have been great, as always. Appreciate all of you. Hit that like button on the way out if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. And until next time, everyone have a good night and go Jets.